So the official 1.1 trailer has dropped, and as the newly self-proclaimed lore master and story speculator of Wuthering Waves, I see it as my duty to talk about it. Despite the minuscule tidbits of story beats the trailer contains, these new teasers and tantalizing details are indeed outlining what we can expect from the story, and the picture is beginning to become clearer. In fact, I would go to say that the implications suggested by some of the imagery and scenes could change everything, with the potential to shatter our expectations and understandings of the game's world as we know it. So sit back, put your tinfoil hats on, and let me regale you of the great conspiracy theory this trailer has convinced me might very well be the direction the story is going in. To recap my last video, I outlined my hopes that Jue and Jinshi would have their relationships fleshed out, that we would come to empathize with their bond and shed emotional turmoil when their ultimate confrontation would have one killing the other. But with this new trailer comes a new theory, one I feel might be too outlandish to be true, but sometimes there is a method in madness. I swear I'll finish the Scar video soon. The trailer begins with our Lady Magistrate fighting through a blizzard, and right off the bat there's a detail that has me scratching my head, and no, it's not the frozen and static Jue hanging in the background, rather it is the blurred humanoid figure we can make out for a singular frame that catches my eye. A figure whose silhouette suspiciously seems a little too close to Jinshi herself for me to write it off as a coincidence. A few moments later, our Magistrate comments,
"I can feel the Sentinel's presence inside, but it's not responding."
This image alone has so many implications, the most obvious and intrusive one being that this person we see is the true form of Jue itself, implying that our future predicting dragon may not actually be a dragon at all. I think it's important to note that the lore of the Guardian Sentinels implies that their form is something they themselves choose. With this, it might be safe to assume that the Guardian Sentinels could actually just be human resonators with exceptionally powerful resonance abilities. We've already seen Scar transform himself into something very much not human with his ability, so I don't see why the same couldn't apply here. Another interesting detail is that this figure we see is also frozen, an ongoing theme we see all over the trailer. Not long after, we see Rover entering a town where frozen villagers stand still like statues, with suspended Fraxitus members seeming to be in the middle of what could have been some kind of raid before time seemingly stopped. It's clear at this point that a frozen state of time is going to be the hook of 1.1. For whatever reason, the flow of time needs to be restored, and it will fall to us to be the ones to find a solution. My guess is that Jue itself is responsible, and perhaps this could be part of the setup for what brings it and Jinshi to inevitably clash. Yet for some reason I feel that something deeper is going on, something that is staring us in the face, something that on the surface sounds so absurd that I'm afraid to put it in words. But I have a feeling that Jue and Jinshi might be far more deeply linked than I first thought. I might sound crazy, but I think Jue and Jinshi might actually be the same person. The details of icy scales appearing on Jinshi's skin, the spiked horns protruding from her head, the fact that they both share the same hair color and color palette. It all speaks to me as something deeper than just a stylistic choice to make these two look good together. It's stated that Jue has control over the flow of time itself, that in an instant it can change the universe forever. So what if part of its powers was to send an image of itself backwards through time? An image that takes the form of a dragon that comes to be known as Jue the Guardian Sentinel. An image that saves Jinshi as a baby and raises her to become the person she now is. What if Jue is the end product of what Jinshi's powers actually are? What if the person that is Magistrate Jinshi is a self-sustained paradox who essentially creates herself, and this visage of a stranger we see is actually an older and wiser version of herself from the future looking back? If this is the case, then the battle between these two becomes far darker than I could have hoped. Perhaps this future version of Jinshi comes from a present that is disastrous, and in order to prevent it from happening, she is attempting to stop the flow of time in its entirety, knowing that the past self she has raised will rise up in an attempt to restore it, that ultimately the form of Jue will die, perhaps leaving Jinshi to pick up the mantle of Guardian Sentinel herself. In this light, I think it's important to note how often the form of Jue is shaped into the infinity symbol, its existence that of an Ouroboros, a paradox, a serpent eating its own tail. Perhaps what we see here is Jinshi trying to break the cycle, finally deciding that she won't be bound by fate, that she won't accept the destiny of having to essentially kill herself, or at least her future version of herself. Maybe we, the rover, the anomaly of this world, play a role in convincing her that the future is her own path to walk. That in life we don't need to follow a script, that we don't need to be a pawn, and no matter how bleak the future might be, we have to keep moving forwards. We can't stand rooted in one spot, to one present. The flow of time must be restored, the eons must be thawed. If you watch this far, then thank you for putting up with my absurd ramblings. I understand my points may not have the same clarity nor depth of the last video I made on Jinshi, but I wanted to give you my raw takeaways from the trailer while they were still fresh. So if you enjoyed it, be sure to like, comment and sub to one of the few people actually covering the story of Wuthering Waves as opposed to how many numbers a character's ultimate can ultimately put on screen. The Scar video's on its way. I'm aiming to get it out before the 28th, but no promises. I'm going into considerably more depth than I have prior, and there's a lot to unpack and a lot to cover. So thank you for watching again. Come check me out on Twitch if you want to see me play 1.1 live. Peace.